Welcome everyone to the Q&A session for our upcoming course, Wounds into Wisdom, the 9-week journey to heal intergenerational trauma to create a new future for yourself, your family, and your world. I'm Lisa Bonise, and it really is my honor to be hosting this Q&A conversation for the Shift Network, where we'll explore the teachings of Rabbi Dr. Tirzah Firestone and address questions about her upcoming 9-week course, Wounds into Wisdom, which begins Wednesday, August 5th. And a little later, I'll explain how you can participate in the course, even if you can't attend the live sessions. We know the timing doesn't work for everybody, but first I want to introduce our guest. Rabbi Dr. Tirzah Firestone is an author, psychotherapist, and founding rabbi of Congregation Neve Kodesh in Boulder, Colorado. Widely known for her groundbreaking work on Kabbalah, depth psychology, and the reintegration of the feminine wisdom tradition within Judaism, Rabbi Tirzah lectures and teaches nationally about spiritual and ancient wisdom practices that are honed to assist us at this critical time in world history. Her latest work, combining research in depth psychology, neuroscience, and the field of collective traumatology, is highlighted in her award-winning book, Wounds into Wisdom, Healing Intergenerational Jewish Trauma. And in just a few minutes, we're going to open up for your questions, but first, I want to welcome Tirzah, who's going to lead us in an embodiment practice. Welcome, Tirzah. It's so great to be with you today.
Hi, Lisa. Great to see you again. So happy to be back. So I guess we can dive in. Hello to everyone who's listening. I'm thrilled to be here with you. I'm zooming in from the Rocky Mountains, from a mini vacation, little road trip, and hope you can hear me perfectly. And I'd like to share a very brief practice wherever you are, wherever this finds you, because to do the work of ancestral healing, especially now during these very agitated and turbulent times, it's really important to be centered and embodied in ourselves, rooted in our earthly self, so that we can penetrate and we can reach into the unseen realms. So just like a kite needs to be held down from the earth in order to fly free, in the same way we need to care and tend to our earthly selves. So we counterbalance the uncertainty in the air and we stay positive and connected to ourselves with these practices, and our teachings all through the course are very usable wisdom, I like to call it. So would you take a minute right now, wherever you are, and get comfortable? And if you're able to, just take a breath and let yourself relax into the gravitational pull. Let yourself sit into your seat comfortably. And when you're ready, just touch yourself lightly, either with your thoughts or with your hand. First to your forehead. And imagine that you have a little screen door there, an opening into your mind. And imagine that you're breathing in big clear sky through that door. Breathing in blue, breathing in wide, spacious, empty sky, free of clouds or storm, just broad and spacious, cleansing and soothing your mind. On the out breath, you may want to release the residue, the tensions of this day. And with each in-breath, it's as if you're oxygenating your mind, oxygenating your brain. Of course, we're imagining, we're broadening that whole specter of ourselves to be more peaceful, more calm. Beautiful. And sigh out on your exhalation. One more breath right into your forehead, expanding and enlarging that scope. And exhale, with a sigh, down and out. And now if you would touch yourself at your sternum. We call this the heart center in about every tradition in the world. Just imagine here an open window and a gentle stream of fresh mountain air. As you inhale, allow that freshness to surround your actual heart, the organ, your heart, and penetrate, oxygenating your actual heart, seat of your inner truth, seat of your feelings, seat of your memories in this life. And exhale. Again, releasing any residue or dross, any tension from the day. And one more breath right into your heart center, feeling where you are today in this part of you. And exhale out. And now touch yourself at your belly. That area just beneath your belly button, beneath your navel center, and feel yourself here. Allow a Buddha belly. Allow yourself to be robust and energized as you breathe in right into your hand, right into your belly, as it were. And exhale, down and out into Mother Earth. Breathing into your belly, into the seat of your being, into the ground of your being. And exhale, down and out into Mother Earth, allowing her to receive your breath energy and any dross that you wish to release that she can neutralize for you. And before we close, just feel yourself here in your forehead, in your heart, and in your belly center, those three centers along the central axis of your being. Just notice the difference of these three intelligence centers, energy centers. Notice which of these are home base for you, which you might need a little extra opening, a little extra attention. As you care for yourself, as you rebalance yourself, and gently wiggle your toes and come back fully into this room, just a little touch space today into our embodied selves.
Thank you so much, Tirzah. That was beautiful. I really needed some of that fresh mountain air. As you know, I live in the desert of Phoenix where it's very hot. So that was very nice. Thank you for that. So I want to let everyone know we have the rest of our time together to dive into questions for Rabbi Tirzah as we prepare for her upcoming course. Again, that's called Wounds into Wisdom, and it begins Wednesday, August 5th. And if you want to check out the website and learn more about the 9-week course, you can visit ancestralwisdomcourse.com to see the full description. So let's go ahead and get into some questions. If you have a question for Tirzah, go ahead and type it in. I'll be happy to pass it along. And in the meantime, we've got a few questions waiting here. Let's start with a kind of a basic question here. This is from Viva, who says, how do I know if the trauma is my own or from my own past life, meaning the current past life, versus from one of my ancestors?
Good. That's a brilliant question, actually. It's quite deep. So thank you. Is that from Aviva?
Yeah.
Great. Hi, Aviva. I want to say that we are such interwoven beings. So sometimes we have a an experience of trauma or injury in our own lives. And when we pull that thread and follow that thread, we realize, oh, actually, it intersects with something larger and bigger than my own. And as we keep pulling and keep understanding it and studying it, we realize, oh, it has a much bigger context. So oftentimes I will be working with people who, let's say, I'm taking just a random example, they have some issues with male, I'm thinking of one in particular, male dominance, and some trauma or injury around relationships with men. And this is something that comes up for some women. As they pull that, they realize, I really want to heal this. I want better relations with men. I want to respect men and be respected by men, and let me study that. And then understanding through this work that on a family level, oh, this actually has roots in a larger system. It has roots in my mother, my grandmother, even my great-grandmother's uh, uh, relationships with men. And I understand that there is some wounding that happened here on my grandmother who came over from into Ellis Island on the boat. I heard a story about that, or I hear from my Aunt Lily that there's something there. So we expanded to understand the matrix, that oftentimes the anxieties or the wounds that we have in our personal lives have a bigger context. And so we want to look at that and even turn to face that bigger context and do what I call as retroactive healing. We're doing healing not only on ourselves, but also on our ancestors who hold the beginnings of the matrix of that wound and the conditions of that wound. And then we could even go larger, to a larger scope, open the aperture even larger to understand that there's another context for what I'm suffering. Perhaps we would understand it as a much larger cultural issue of patriarchal values that needs to be addressed. So this work can be accessed at any of those levels. You can start from your own personal traumas, and they are going to be accessed and understood and healed much better when we have the ancestors at our back, when we have them helping with us, helping the process along, and then at a collective level as well. Everything, there are reverberations, because it's like the nested Russian dolls. Do you remember those dolls that we used to play with when we were kids? That they keep being larger contexts, and you can do the work at any level that you choose. And I hope that addressed your actual question, and come back if you have another part of that question.
Okay, thank you for that. In fact, that even takes us a little bit down a rabbit hole with this next question. You've already sort of started to answer this, but this is more specific. Lorelei says, I've been feeling a lot more panic about the pandemic than anyone in my household. I wonder if any of that could be ancestral trauma. How can I tell if that's what it is, and what can I do about it?
It's such an important question, Lorelei. Thank you so much. And I wanted to, was hoping someone would ask about that, because we're living in these very almost surreal times. And so everyone who I've been working with, both students and psychotherapy clients and friends and associates and colleagues, everyone has a different relationship to COVID. Some people are saying, hey, I've never been better. I'm an introvert. I'm enjoying this time with my kids, or I'm enjoying my time reading. But many of us are really taking it hard. Many of us don't like to be hidden or isolated, or not being hugged, not being massaged, not being in touch, literally in touch with people around us who we love. We can't visit with family. We can't visit with friends. So that is going to touch each one of us differently, depending on what our wiring, depending on our matrix. And if I've worked with so many people who have historical trauma in their families. Perhaps they were hidden in World War II. Perhaps they went through discrimination in World War I. Perhaps they were in a Japanese internment camp, or had Native American trauma. And all of these different people, all of these different ethnicities and bloodlines uh, create a kind of condition for us because that influences us and leaves an imprint, if you will, an epigenetic imprint on us, on our nervous system, on our anxiety level, so that something big happens collectively, like COVID or like the racial upheavals in the United States, and we take it, each of us takes it in a different way. Each of us is impacted in a different way. So I guess I would say to you, Lorelei, that honor what you're feeling. It's not random. It's not accidental. You're not being a prima donna if you feel, oh my God, this is really a lot. Tend yourself, care for yourself, because there may be healing not only for you, but also for your ancestors at this time to do, because of the things that are hitting in current events, but that re-stimulate past historical traumas. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I hope so too. Lorelei, let us know if you need any further clarification. Here's a question from Mickey who says, I spent some time recently looking through a box of old family photos, many of them over 50 years old, and I was left with a strange sense of my ancestors' presence, like I'm surrounded, even now, by my grandparents in spirit. Everything feels sort of hazy and misty, and I know they're here with me now in a way that I've never felt before. The question is, what do I do with this?
That's so great. So many people have said with this work that these black and white or sepia photographs, it's like the people come off the page. They come off out of the pictures and they start to live in vivid color because they are there. We are living in many dimensions at once. We have this, this table and all the molecules that are vibrating in this table. We have these bodies, but we also have unseen dimensions. We have unseen worlds. And this work takes us right into those invisible realms, you might say, in which there are living beings who are at our back, who are well and wise and want to help us and want to love us and want to give us their wisdom at this time. And they cannot reach us unless we say yes. So this work is about opening the door. It's like opening an aperture, opening a door to the ancestral plane and saying yes to the blessings from our ancestors. Now, I do want to make a little PS on that answer, and that is that not all of our ancestors are well and wise. And, we take with us the unfinished business that we have in this earthly plane. So when we die, I believe very firmly, and many traditions around the world believe that our soul lives on, but that when we're burdened or hampered by unfinished material, we died abruptly, or we had secrets, or we had unmetabolized, undigested traumas, that goes with us. And those ancestors, we want to be careful to invite in right away. So in this coursework, we invite in and populate ourselves almost like we have an advisory board, you might say. We have our board of advisors who are made of spiritual allies, made of people who really care about us, people who are wise, who are well, who are beneficent and good and loving, and they are ready to help us. And with their assistance, then we turn to face the ancestors who are less well and wise to do retroactive healing in our bloodlines and retroactive healing in our families. It's very powerful work, but first we want to embody ourselves. That's why I did that first little meditation, to really open up our channels and be fully embodied. And then we want to flank ourselves, as it were, with spiritual allies who are all good and ready to, and loving, who are ready to assist us and guide us on this way. Yeah, great question.
All right, thank you for that. And as usual, one leads into another. You've begun to answer this one, but Jackie's asking, are the ancestors helping us, or are we helping them to complete unfinished traumas?
That's great, Jackie. These are perfect questions. Thank you. And just as I've said, we are first allowing them to come in. We're strengthening our faith first. We could say that this is an act of faith, an act of courage to say, actually, what we see is what we get in this world, but there's so much more. I'm suspending my disbelief, and I'm allowing those intuitive ripples to come through me when I look at these pictures. I'm allowing these people to come to life to assist me. First, they assist me, and then together we turn to face those who need healing. And the patterns and the knots in our bloodlines, in our family histories, those places where people won't speak to one another, people are carrying resentments or things that have been pushed under or closeted because somebody dominated. There's so many variations, and for every person that does this work, there are personal family quirks and knots that need healing and need opening up. And when we do this retroactive healing, there is this almost it's like a dam that opens up in a river. There's a flush, there's a release of energy and health and vitality for us, but also for our children, for the whole family line. I can't tell you how many stories I have heard, wonderful stories about doing this work, and then all of a sudden somebody calls, a brother that hasn't spoken to me for ages, or somebody, I find a letter from a grandmother that I've been never saw, or these almost little miracles that happen. There's like this opening and a rush of fresh healing energy. So there's a lot of synchronicity, a lot of magic in this work as well.
All right, thank you. Now, this next question, a lot of people are asking various forms of it, but I'm just going to read Karen's version of it. Karen says, I feel like I would like to take this course, but I'm afraid of contacting my ancestors. I don't want to expose myself to them again. I don't see them as helpful entities. What can you say about feeling like this, please?
But thank you. That's a really, really important one. And sometimes people say, healthy I have no healthy ancestors. I will not do that. I won't go there. I don't want to know them. I don't want to. They're toxic people. They're neurotic people. Whatever. I've heard every variation thereof. And the truth is that we do have lots of stuff back there. I could tell you stories that would curl your hair about my family. And in that case, what we do is log on to other lineages. We log on to spiritual allies from other bloodlines. So our teachers, remember, we have teachers, we have heroes, we have historical figures, we have biblical figures, we have people that we've always had a kind of a sense of a kinship with them, and a sense of, I've always emulated this this Mother Teresa, or the Baal Shem Tov, or Martin Luther King Jr., or Rosa Parks. I've always had this thing or Anne Frank. I've always wanted to imagine that they were my sister, or that they were my mother. Or so those are the people that we actually we recall that they are actually alive. Their spirit is still powerfully present on the planet. There's a teaching in many traditions that says when we call upon by name, when we call upon a soul, no matter where in the universe they abide, no matter where they've already merged into the light, wherever they are in the universe, they will reconstellate and come to our assistance. I've read that in so many different, I've studied that in so many different traditions. And so I want to say that you may not actually call ancestors in your own bloodline if you don't feel connected to them, but then you would find teachers, you would find figures from history that you do feel, oh, that's what I emulate, and that's who I emulate, and call them in for strength and for blessings and for guidance. And you begin the work there. So this work, the work, again, I'm going to reiterate the thing that I've already said in the very beginning, is that it's at every level. So many of us are feeling right now that we're called because of the occurrences, the things that are going on right now. Things are so uncertain, things are so tumultuous, our mortality is more real than ever, and many of us are called to do to really get down and do the work of our lives, to do the healing work. And that can be done at a personal level, on our personal wounds, and it can be done on a family level. It can be done on a level that is larger. And many of us are feeling that too now, that there are these toxic narratives that have been causing suffering for so many generations and so many centuries, that we have got to dismantle those. I want to speak to that for just a moment, if you don't mind. So what do I mean by these toxic narratives, these toxic myths, these toxic, you'd also call it these contracts that we've made to say, I believe in this. I agree to this idea. I've made a contract with this. And what I mean by that is, for instance, that there's a patriarchal authority in the world, that men should lead, and that men have a God-given right to dominate. Well, we know that that's not true. We are at a moment in world history where we can dismantle that and say that we are all created equally, men and women, or however you identify. It is not a male dominant world anymore. And the same thing with the toxic and very deadly narrative of white supremacy, that white skin is somehow purer or closer to God. You can hear that. That's just so wrong. That whites are entitled to dominance. It's just that needs to be dismantled. That's a belief system that is no longer right. That human beings are supreme on this earth. Just think about that belief system. That's a myth, that we have the right to exploit Mother Earth endlessly and use her creatures for our pleasure. So all of these are what I say toxic contracts or toxic narratives, that we're in a moment, we're at a nexus point in world history, that we are being asked, we're being called to higher ground. We're being asked to dismantle these because they have affected us and our families. They've affected whole ethnicities. They've created havoc and ill health for so many, and so much injustice. So whether our families were oppressed or they were oppressors, whether they were dominated or they were dominators, or colonized or colonizers, we've all been hurt by these narratives. And this is a time to recalibrate. It's a time to reroot and reroot and reboot. So this work can also be done at that level, where we feel like, I want to help do the ancestral healing, the retroactive healing, to turn to face these ancestral demons. And in this course, I want to say, we're using a practice called Shut, which is from the 11th century, the 1000s. Just think about that, Tibetan Buddhist practice, which literally has us turn to face our family demons and our ancestral demons and these large cultural demons, and do the collective healing, and come from an empowered place, because the planet is so calling to us now to do our work. So at whatever level, that could be your family, it could be your own personal history, and it could also be at this macro level, micro, macro. This is like an accordion, and you can enter it at any level. This work is powerful at all these levels.
All right, beautifully stated. Thank you for that. And for those of you who are just joining us, we're here with Rabbi Dr. Tirzah Firestone, learning about her upcoming course, Wounds into Wisdom, which begins Wednesday, August 5th. And you can log on to ancestralwisdomcourse.com for all the details and to register. And we've got plenty of questions lined up here, so let's get right back into them. This again is a question that many people are asking, so I'll just ask a general version. What's your experience working with people whose ancestors have committed suicide?
Yeah. Okay, that's a very pointed question because it's one of my own ancestral demons. I have a lot of suicide in my family. And I wrote about it a little bit in Wounds into Wisdom, my book, which after which this course is named. And that is, I could probably talk for about 4 hours about that. I have it at every generation, my own generation, my children's generation, my parents' generation, and on up. So it is a very big topic for me. And what can I say on one leg, as we say, just briefly? Suicide is brutal. It's just brutal. It leaves a very big wake, and it is causes so much suffering, but it's also born of so much suffering, and it's often born of self-loathing that didn't get healed, and a self-love that didn't take root. And you know, I'll just say very personally, one of the ancestral demons that I'm working with is how families can be brutal and cut each other off. And when we cut each other off, and there is this kind of uh, impersonality, you don't live the way I want, and so I'm going to just shut you out of my life. You don't exist anymore. Oftentimes this comes because have been given up by their families for adoption, or they have not been, parents have let go, or there's been neglect, or there's so many background scenarios. In my family, it's really that cold cutting off. And that has been a source of so much pain and suicide in my family. So how is it that this is one of my questions, how is it that our politics and our religious dogma take over our hearts, take over our humanity, so that we cut each other off, and that a soul goes away or feels so othered that they want to take their own lives? How is that possible? And so you're touching on one of my personal injuries in my family, and so much more to say about that. But oftentimes suicide comes from deep pain, and it doesn't happen spontaneously, and it also doesn't leave something that is healable spontaneously. It's really a mark that you take with you into the rest of your life, and wrestle with to garner meaning. So again, I have a personal connection with you for asking that question, and I'm happy to expand upon that when we meet.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, there are a lot of people asking that question, so it's good to know that you'll actually be looking into that into the course. Here's a question from Patricia, who says, Rabbi, please, how could I help my sisters to be at peace with one another? I'm from a Jewish family, and I feel they're repeating our mother and her sister's history.
Yes, isn't that amazing how we do this? And when we wake up and realize, oh my God, this is so much bigger than me. This didn't begin with me. I'm just repeating this. It's almost as if I am in a repeat performance, and I don't have autonomy here. I don't have the freedom here. It's like I was given a script and I'm living it out. So it sounds like your sisters are doing that. And the issue with family members is that we can't get them to wake up. I've tried that. We can't get our children to wake up. We can't get our siblings to wake up when we see things like this. But what we can do is to enliven and wake ourselves up and do the work ourselves and turn to face these ancestral patterns so that when we do that, there is like this concentric circles rippling out of healing. And that's when you start to have a telephone call that says, I just had this dream, or I just had this realization. Or we get a letter that says, oh my God, I just put two and two together. I connected the dots. And so there are these amazing things happen when we do our own work. We realize that indirectly, almost we're affecting the morphogenic field. Biologists would say we're affecting the morphic resonance of our family, because a family is a system, it is a body. And so if I work on one part of my body, it will affect and enliven the whole body. And that's the tack that we take. We can't really change other people, and we try not to go there. We don't want to come off, telling people what to do, or uh, giving the gospel over to our family members. It usually doesn't work very well. But indirectly and unconsciously, subliminally, there are these effects. And when we are loving, and when we're converting the places of the knotted places, or the unloving places into light in our own selves, that does have this reverberation throughout the whole body of our family, the larger family system.
Okay, thank you for that one. Um, Another topic entirely. This is Andrea, who says, I experienced a lot of trauma as a child, also trauma while pregnant with my oldest daughter, and big trauma prior to pregnancy with my two younger ones. Is there anything that I can do to help my children move past the traumas that I'm likely to be passing on to them?
Yeah, I think actually that is such a great question, and it's a question that comes up all the time, and it's very, very related to the one before, actually, and what we've been discussing, because you, by virtue of doing this work, we are affecting our children. The way I write about it in Wounds into Wisdom is that we are stopping the trauma train. That there is like this freight train that's coming through. It's an unconscious train. It's an epigenetic train. It is a biological train, and it is this mysterious thing that it's like life wanting to come into resolution, life wanting to master itself, wanting to heal itself. And so, okay, you didn't get it in this generation, we'll try the next generation. Oh, you didn't get it in that generation. It's going to keep rumbling through the centuries, rumbling through the generations, until some sensitive person, some awake person says, I have got to stop this trauma train in its tracks. I'm getting off this train. I am not going to pass this on to my children. And it's turning to face those patterns that really, in ourselves, that really shifts things for our children. And so I have many stories about that. And let me tell you one story that is a fantastic story. It's a family from Iran that escaped in the early 1980s during the Iranian Revolution. It was a Jewish family who there were grandparents, and then the next generation, the mother was pregnant, and there was a very wealthy family who just closed up their mansion, left with a shopping bag, rode out of Tehran on opium bundles, on a donkey cart, literally, and crossed over the border in the middle of the night, because their lives were at stake and all their assets were at risk of being seized by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. They made it out, bribing people left and right. And this woman who came to me was telling me this family legend, which was such a powerful story. And we did a genogram, we did a family map. And I said, this is so interesting. Well, she came to me not because just to tell me the story, but because her little 7-year-old daughter was having horrible separation anxiety. And she couldn't go to school, and she couldn't have play dates, and she couldn't be out of sight of her parents. And basically the mom was going crazy and she needed a little extra support. And as I probed her family, she said, well, yeah, we have this amazing history and so proud of this history. We made it to the United States. I was born in the United States. I was in my mom's belly while they escaped. And I said, well, what about this side of the family? You haven't talked anything about that side of the family. And she said, oh, well, I'll go home and ask. It turned out that in asking, she unearthed this terrible family secret, this shameful family secret that her parents had left Tehran, leaving behind a 94-year-old blind grandmother and never saying goodbye, just closing the door, never telling anyone where they went. She never saw them again. She died of a broken heart. She died of, talk about separation anxiety. And as my client went back and said, what are you talking about? Like, you did this? How could you do? She started to just rail at her parents and pull out pictures and tell me stories and let's do a memorial. And the shame was unleashed and the grief was unleashed and all of this pain, as it were, came up from under the floorboards. And the reason why I'm telling you this story right now is because that kind of messy, chaotic thing that happened for my client in one part of the house. In the other part, her little daughter, her 7-year-old, started to heal. Within 2 or 3 weeks, she started saying, I've got to get to school. Mom, why aren't I in school? Where are my friends? And she started to become and behave all of a sudden like a normal 7-year-old child. So doing the work in one part of the family, unearthing or telling family secrets or feeling grief or just basically doing the healing work of letting things be unearthed has this almost mystical, magical power to ripple out and affect people thousands of miles away. Now, how did this little girl, a 7-year-old, she had a grandmother thousands of miles away that she had never met, and yet they both had this huge separation anxiety. How do you understand that linearly? But there are these family mysteries, and that's what this work is about, is doing the family work, doing the personal work, unearthing our grief, digesting traumas in ways that unleash vitality for other people, often our children and generations that have not even been born yet. So we're stopping the trauma train. We're allowing healing to occur, and we are the nexus point. We are the nexus point. We are the place to start the work.
Right. Wow. That's an incredible story. Thank you for sharing that. And I'd like to ask a question of my own. Uh,
Right?
when you're dealing with family stories, uh, I mean, I don't know of any in my family that are quite that powerful, but who knows? Um, how do you begin to scratch the surface when things are so shameful and held so close to the chest that people just don't want to talk about it, and it hurts to have these conversations? How do you even begin to approach that when pain isn't fun?
Pain is not fun. And yet, like I said, there is such an impulse in us and in life to heal itself that when we say yes to this work and we commit, we log on to this work, things start to happen. And we start looking at pictures, we start feeling intuitions to read old letters or to look at old pictures, or we start going to ancestry.com, for instance, or interviewing an elderly aunt, or studying. Sometimes we don't have anyone that's alive, but we study what was it like to live during the Spanish flu? What was it like to live uh, during the Japanese internment? What was it like to live through the Holocaust? And we start to open the doors of our unconscious, and we start to get the information. Now, they come in different, the information comes in different ways. And I've never seen it happen that somebody is so overwhelmed that they just can't do it. It usually happens in titrated form. We get a little bit, and then we get more, and and then we get another piece of information that corroborates the first piece, and it's just a very mystical process. So yes, there is pain, but we come from this place of deep compassion, and we also try not to change people. As I've said, we try not to lord it over ourselves or others. The work is really grounded in self-compassion and self-love, and also self-forgiveness. We're all human, and so we come from the place of we accept our humanity. We accept that our ancestors were human, that they were doing the best that they could given where they were, what they had to live through. And many of our ancestors, by the way, were living through unprecedented times themselves, just like we are. Everyone uses that word for COVID-19, for this virus. So these are unprecedented times with this economic crisis that we're in, with the upheaval that we're in, with the fear and the uncertainty that we're in. And when we log on to our ancestors, we realize, oh, well, they were going through unprecedented times themselves, and they had to somehow come up with the resilience and the wisdom that they did. And is there a way that I can log on to their resilience? Can I ask them for help? Can I get some guidance? Can I get their wisdoms to make it through this crazy time? Yes. The answer is yes, we can. And they want to help us. I truly believe that. Like I said in the beginning, we have to suspend our disbelief and really cultivate intuition to understand that there is another plane of existence, that people die and they're still with us, that they really do want to come through to us and help us. Again, we're talking about well and wise and loving beings here that who are there when we call, when we open the door. So yes, the answer is yes. We can do this work.
All right. Well, we have time for a few more questions here, looking at the clock. But before we get into any more, I'll go ahead and give a few details about the class. Some people are asking about that. Again, it's called Wounds into Wisdom. And this is going to be such a powerful 9-week journey with Tirzah and her expert guidance, where you'll embark on an experiential journey to heal your ancestral legacies, discover untapped vitality and spiritual resources, and quiet the turbulent outside world to connect with your sacred purpose. And the 9-week course takes place on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific, beginning Wednesday, August 5th. And as I mentioned earlier, if you can't join us live, that's fine. You won't miss the teachings. You will receive audio and video recordings, transcripts, and all course handouts on the course homepage. And I'd like to remind everyone that we offer a no-risk money-back guarantee on our courses, giving you a full 2 weeks until August 19th in this case, to make sure that you absolutely love it. And as an added option, all participants are welcome to connect in a private Facebook community group so you can connect with one another. And in addition, when you purchase the full 9-module intensive, you will receive access to Tirzah's previous module course, which was called Find Healing and Resilience in Ancestral Wisdom, and all the bonuses that came with it at that time when it was first offered. And you can complete this material at your leisure, but it's better to begin before the new session starts if you can. And of course, everyone who registers receives the Wounds into Wisdom bonus collection. First, you'll receive an orientation ritual package from Rabbi Dr. Tirzah Firestone called Setting and Establishing Your Altar and Community. And then you'll get a video dialogue with Tirzah and Vera de Schallenberg entitled Basking in the Holy Dark. Next, you'll receive a video training and practice from Tirzah called Altar Crafting and Donning a Prayer Shawl. And when you register by midnight Pacific on Tuesday, July 28th, you'll receive this extra gift, and that is small discussion groups with Tirzah entitled Wounds into Wisdom, Preparing for the Journey. So, Tirzah, before we get back into questions, what are you most looking forward to sharing in this upcoming course?
Yeah, I do want to say a couple of things added on to what you just said, Lisa. This is, first of all, it's a 7 weeks, and it's kind of an intensive. It's 7 weeks, but there's 2 practicums. I guess you would say practica. There are 2 ritual gatherings in which we will be doing one after the 3rd week and one after the 5th week. You'll get the whole schedule in which we will be actually doing ritual together. We're going to be constellating a sacred ritual space. Even on Zoom, it's possible, even online, in which we have a very intensive practice that you will get to do with guidance. And so that there's two of those. And one of them is this ancient Tibetan practice called Shud, which is facing your ancestral demons and working with them and transforming them. Extremely powerful. And the other one is from Kabbalah, from Jewish mysticism. It's a Kabbalistic practice that has us, it's hard to describe this, but becoming what we call a Bala Bracha, becoming a master of blessing in the world. So blessing, a blesser, someone who knows the art craft of blessing and the power and the magic of blessing. So this is it's 7 weeks starting from August 5th, as Lisa said. And for those, it's open to all ethnicities, all backgrounds. And because I'm a rabbi, I know that some of you, if you're Jewish and you are realizing this is the exact 7 weeks going toward Rosh Hashanah or the Jewish New Year, and it is like a sacred pilgrimage. I am doing it as a sacred pilgrimage to the Jewish New Year, to the new moon of Tishrei, in which I'm taking these 50 days to do self-healing and purification. And so I have that in mind as well. But it's rich work for all ethnicities and all backgrounds. And this is an amazing global community that comes together. I have to say, I'm pretty new with the Shift Network, but wow, I'm so impressed, Lisa, with everybody who's coming, who's helping this, who's on the Shift Network staff, and the bonuses and everything. It's a very, very rich. It's just a rich program, and you can do it, like Lisa said, at your leisure. You can do it at your own pace if you feel like, I just don't have 7 weeks right now. I don't have an hour and a half every week. That's okay. So do it in your own timing. You're going to be so enriched. And finally, I want to say this is an invitation to those of you who are in the healing arts, those of you who are therapists and teachers and change makers. This will give you practices and an intergenerational perspective that you'll want to use with your clients. It will open up doors for your work. And whether you are in this for your clients or for yourself, such powerful work. Okay. That's all I wanted to add.
All right, thank you. And I apologize for misspeaking. It's not 9 weeks, it's 9 sessions. So
9 sessions, yeah.
right, okay. We do have a few people are asking this question, people who have taken the initial 7-week course. What's the difference, if any, between that one and the one that you're doing
Great. Mm-hmm. So you are so welcome to, I've already started having small group gatherings, very intimate group gatherings. That's one of the bonuses if you sign up by tomorrow. So I know that there are many people who have been in this course, were studying with me during spring at the start of COVID, and are coming back to do the advanced work. But there are many people who are coming to it for the first time, and you are so welcome to start as a beginner. It's a rich review. It will be a very rich review of practices and theory, and infused with all this new material. So new practices, but the center pieces are going to be brand new and ancient. So from Kabbalah, like I just said, and Tibetan Buddhism, these are practices that are designed for infusing the ancestral healing work with light, and the alchemical process of shifting, of transforming our demons, our ancestral demons, I like to call it, but our negative patterns into powerful vitality and into spiritual allies. So let's see, what else would I say about the difference? Like I said, we're going to have some review at the very beginning just to refresh, and then we're going to go on. We're not going to be doing the same practices of genograms, of making our family maps. You've already done that, and you will, if you're new to this, you can do that with the bundled first course. But we are going to be going higher and higher in this work. And so taking the preliminaries and the foundations and really doing the practice. It's going to be very hands-on.
All right, thank you for answering that. We are almost out of time. Let's squeeze one last question in if we can. There are a lot of people asking, can I only do this work on my family, or can I work on my husband or wife's ancestors?
Great. That's a very good question. It comes up a lot. When you when you enter another family under the chuppah or at the marriage altar, that family becomes your family. And so absolutely, that is, your in-laws become your parents, right? It's just like when you adopt a child. There is a fusion, there is an intersection of ancestries. So for marriage and for adoption and for even, when you fostering, foster families, all of these we take the whole family system. There's a whole gestalt. So we do that also with compassion and with, again, we can't change other people, but we work on ourselves and send out these ripples uh, of, of compassion and of healing that tend to shift everything in our families, in our larger family system.
All right, beautiful. Thank you for squeezing that last one in. This has just been a fascinating conversation. You know, Tirzah, I could talk to you just for days and days and days. I would love to just monopolize all your time, but I cannot. So I want to go ahead and thank our viewers for being with us today and for all of your terrific questions. You guys help make these conversations what they are. Once again, Wounds into Wisdom begins Wednesday, August 5th. And again, you can visit ancestralwisdomcourse.com to learn more or to register. So, Tirzah, before we let you go, do you have any final words for our viewers?
Just a big blessings for all of us who are living through these difficult times. And I want to invite you actually to this global community. This is an amazing thing, whether or not doing this course, whether or not you're here. And so we're all doing this work together. And it is a time that is such an opportunity. And I want to bless everyone who's listening to this course with good health and safety and protection. And may the powers, the unseen powers that are well and wise and loving, bless each of us with fortitude and with courage and with protection right now. So thanks for joining.
All right. Thank you again, Rabbi Tirzah Firestone. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you today. And again, I want to thank everyone who joined us. On behalf of all of us at the Shift Network, I wish you well and look forward to having you on this course or perhaps another one in the future. Have a great day, everyone.